Hi folks, Skillet Lasagna. Couldn't be easier, couldn't be more delicious, way quicker than the traditional recipe. Not to knock the traditional recipe, but it's a lot of work. This is not, couldn't be any easier. You take one pan, you need a skillet, at least 10 inches, maybe 12 inches will work for you. If it's anything smaller than that, it just won't work. But it's just a regular good old cast iron skillet. You throw that on the stove, about medium-high heat. Get some mushrooms, your choice, whatever you want to use, that's fine. Kind of tear them into pieces, don't chop them too fine. You want some hunks of mushroom. Put that in the pan, let it basically brown, saute there for like maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, but you want them you want some dark color on them, that good nice sear to them. Take them off the heat, put them in a little bowl and mix them in with some fresh herbs. We use thyme a lot, we mix ours with thyme, rosemary would be good with it. Your call, but do that right when it comes out of the heat because it really infuses the flavor. Then as that pan's still sitting on the stove, you want to finely mince 3 cloves of garlic, 1 whole shallot, again finely minced, a little bit of olive oil in that pan, throw that all together and let those soften and kind of meld together. That takes maybe a minute and a half. You'll see it, they start to brown. When you get to that point, a little bit of flour to kind of help things thicken, and that flour you're just going to stir around until it becomes a roux, and it'll gently brown, let's say, and it'll kind of look like toast. You don't want it dark, you don't want to burn it, but you want it to get that kind of nice, almost caramelized color without it being too dark. Then after that happens, pretty simple, you take a little bit of milk in there and you combine it together, and you want to make sure this pan isn't more than halfway full because you've got to put a lot of other things in it, and I'll get to that in a minute. So you take the milk, kind of let that combine, you can use a whisk, you can use a spoon, whatever, you're just going to gently stir it. When that starts to bubble and simmer together and you can kind of smell it, as this happens, you're going to start to put in a little water. And the water's for the pasta, and I'll get to that in a minute. But you let that combine as well, and again, that'll start to bubble. Then when that is all kind of happy and getting along together, you're going to throw in a little crème fraîche. And the crème fraîche is going to thicken it a little bit and add a really wonderful depth of flavor. Without it being too heavy, the crème fraîche just has that nice little lift. I don't want to call it acidity, but it just kind of brightens the flavors in the dish. Let that kind of meld and bubble together again, and you're just looking for like a gentle little bubble, not a boil. Then, as it kind of gets to that point, lower that heat, shave a little bit of lemon zest on it. And you just take a little microplane or even a cheese grater and just gently basically zest the lemon. You don't want to get too much of the white part of it because that's bitter. Why you're putting lemon in here is because this is a rich dish and that helps, again, heighten the flavor a little bit. So you kind of let that all percolate together, and here comes the really easy part. It's lasagna pasta sheets, more mushrooms, lasagna pasta sheet, more mushrooms, one more layer of all the same. Let that percolate and kind of melt together again. Then lower the heat. You're going to take some fresh mozzarella and put big, thick slices on the top, like maybe that thick, like you're serving a caprese salad. Then you're going to take some mushrooms that you have left over because you didn't use them all, sprinkle them on the top, turn the broiler on, throw this in under the broiler, minute to 2 minutes, maybe 3 at the most, and you want that bubbly, gooey, kind of browned edge to this. You're good to go. Regular lasagna, I love it. It's 3-4 hours, maybe all day to make. It's 20 minutes, and you're set to go. And it's delicious. So, decided to have a rosé with this dish, and you can certainly do a white or a red, and that would be fine. But what I really like about rosé is it adds a freshness to the dish. Remember we talked about adding that lemon zest and kind of heightening the flavors? This is going to do the same thing with the dish. There is a lot of richness here. Those mushrooms are really like unctuous. There's a lot of umami there. Then we've got basically a cream sauce. That needs something to cut through it, and the acidity, the minerality, the structure, the little bit of tannin that's there is going to help enhance all the flavors in the dish, and vice versa. These, trust me, are meant to go together. Should be absolutely fantastic. So why don't we talk more about the wine? And I'm going to start by telling you where it's from, but let me give you a little bit of background on the wine itself. The winery is Terredora de Paolo, and this is a beautiful rosé of a grape called Aglianico, and they named the wine Rosaenovae, which means new rose. Rose by any other name, right? Anyway, what's great about the region where this wine is from, it's Campania. And if you're not familiar with the region of Campania itself, that's where Naples is. Naples sort of in the center, right on the coast. And Naples, if you aren't aware of this, is the birthplace of pizza and pasta as we know it. In my opinion, heaven on earth. We'll just leave it at that. But I mean, it is the culinary basket. It's the culinary genesis of a lot of foods that we love here in the States. And just outside of Naples is a little area known as Avellino, which has pretty amazing vineyards. It's very hilly, rich clay soil, which is great for growing vines. And this is in a little village there known as Montefusco. Paolo is owned and operated by the Mastrobarandino family, and that is Walter, his daughter Daniela, and his son Paolo. They oversee the entire winemaking process. That's the vineyards, the cellar, and heck, even selling the wine outside of their little region. And it's all hands-on. It's a labor of love and passion. It's pretty incredible what they've achieved. They helped put this wine region on the map, and we're going back to the late 60s, early 70s, when people really weren't drinking that much Italian wine here. They're responsible for us to be able to drink wines like this today. It's pretty remarkable what they've accomplished in a short period of time. One of my favorite wineries, and I think this is an excellent expression of the rosé from the area. So you've heard me say rosé, about 100 times at this point? But what makes a rosé and not a red wine or a white wine? So you may have heard me mention this before if you've seen another video, but if you aren't aware of this, if you take a red grape, most of them, and you crush them in your hand, the juice that runs out is clear. The wine gets its color from the skin of the grape. So the longer you leave that skin in contact with the juice once it's been crushed, gives you a darker, heavier red typically. And that's an oversimplification, but that's so you help you understand the process a little bit. The reason this is not white and not red is there's a little bit of time in contact with the skin. Why do you do that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. You make this dynamite little bottle of rosé, but that process of giving you a little bit of that spirit of the skin gives you a little more complexity, a little more flavor, a little more nuance to it. So it's not going to be as grippy as a red wine, but you get a little of that tone to it. It's not going to be as heavy as a red wine, but it's not going to be as light as a white wine. You're going to get notes of citrus, but it also kind of melds into things like strawberry, peach, and it's still very fresh and vibrant, but you get that little spirit of the red, and that's what's so dynamic about rosé. Besides, the color is absolutely brilliant on the table and in the glass, and it just adds, it's like a bright light on the table. They're a lot of fun when it's really warm outside. Of course, it's refreshing and delicious. When it's really cold outside, are you kidding me? A bottle of pink is going to brighten up your day. Rosés are super flexible. And to that point, when you think about holidays, let's talk about Thanksgiving, Christmas, Passover, Easter, any of these holidays where you get a lot of people together and you're eating, you're feasting, and you're having a really good time. There's so many different dishes on the table. White wine can't cover them all. A red wine, it's not going to go so well with turkey, is it? It's not a good call. If you do it, that's fine. I don't recommend it. This is what you want to have on the table. It'll handle turkey in stride. Stuffing, if that green bean casserole shows up, I apologize, it happens, but it'll even handle that quite well. Mashed potatoes, candied yams, lasagna. It's going to work with pretty much anything you put with it. And also, if you're just sitting around and catching up with friends and family, you can just have a glass of it on its own. It's a great as an aperitivo. You can take it from beginning to end. Maybe I've oversold it, but it's all true. It's a delightful bottle of wine, and I really recommend having it now, through the holidays, whenever you feel like having a really good bottle of wine. This is what you want to go to. All right, we're not quite done pairing yet. What do I mean is, well, we always pair wine with food, and we kind of look for an ideal pairing, a really good pairing, something that excites us. But without music, it's not complete. So to that point, Freddie McKay. This is old school roots reggae. It's a little bit like Motown meets reggae, kind of meets ska, but it's not cheesy. It's really soulful, beautiful reproduction. Probably somebody you haven't heard of before. Studio One, the record company in Jamaica re-released this a few years back. Couldn't be happier. There's a lot of different versions of some of his most popular songs. Probably the best one is Picture on the Wall. And if you think you haven't heard it, you probably have. You might even hum it to yourself. But it's such a fun album. It's great background music, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have personality. It's a joy to listen to. You can, again, from beginning to end, listen to it. If you don't have it on vinyl, don't sweat it. You can stream it. Highly recommend it. I think all of these together are going to make for one really great evening. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. Until next wine, cheers.